A fake arrangement, an unplanned pregnancy, a love he never expected. He made the rules. She broke them all, and now nothing will ever be the same. Tap like, subscribe, and watch what happens when the heart refuses to follow the plan.
I never imagined my life would come to this. 1 minute, I was arranging tulips and freesia in the window of my tiny flower shop on 6th Street. The next, I was sitting in a marble-floored office that smelled like leather and power, staring down at a contract that could change everything. Lorenzo Bianchi. That name didn't belong in my world. He was the kind of man you saw in Forbes, not in floral boutiques. An Italian-born billionaire with cheekbones that could slice paper, a stare like green fire, and a reputation colder than the Alps in January. CEO of a global design empire that spanned 5 continents. The kind of man who didn't ask for anything, he took. He found me through a client, a wealthy socialite who ordered white orchids every Thursday and liked to gossip more than she liked flowers. One evening, she asked if I'd ever consider marrying a stranger. I laughed, nervous. She didn't.
Lorenzo needs a wife. American, clean record, no drama. It's transactional.
I laughed again, but part of me didn't. That part was drowning in debt. That part still flinched when the landlord knocked too loud. That part hadn't slept peacefully in months. So when I received an invitation to a private meeting in his mansion, I told myself I'd just hear him out. Nothing more. Lorenzo didn't do small talk. He slid the papers across the table with one perfectly veined hand, eyes locked on mine.
No love, no children, no expectations of fidelity. 1 year. You'll be compensated more than fairly. You'll have protection, status, and once it's over, freedom.
His voice was low and velvety, like red wine you weren't supposed to drink too fast. I should have said no. I should have run. But I didn't, because in that moment, surrounded by sharp edges and temptation, I realized something. This wasn't just about him. This was my escape hatch. So now here I am, in the same black dress I wore to my mother's funeral, pen in hand. My fingers trembled just a little as I signed my name next to his. Harper Collins, Mrs. Lorenzo Bianchi, at least on paper. I glance up at him. He's watching me like a man inspecting merchandise, polished, distant, but curious. Something flickers in his gaze. Something I can't quite read.
Welcome to the Empire.
He murmurs. My heart clenches. Not with excitement, not even fear. With a promise I make silently to myself. Don't fall in love. Don't get attached. Survive the year. But as his fingers brush mine to take the contract, there's a spark. Not warmth, no. It's heat. Low, dangerous heat. And I know I've already made my first mistake.
She came into my world like she didn't belong to it, because she didn't. Soft hair pulled back in a modest knot. Lips tinted like roses at dusk. Shoes that had seen better days. She smelled like jasmine and rainwater. Sweet. Clean. Simple. A fucking disaster. Harper Collins was a chess move. Nothing more. I needed a wife. Someone American, discreet, untouched by scandals or tabloids. Someone unimportant enough to disappear when this arrangement was over. She checked all the boxes. Perfectly ordinary. Perfectly forgettable. Or so I thought. But here's the problem with thinking you've got the board figured out. Sometimes the pawn looks you straight in the eye and dares you to play. The first week, she barely spoke to me. Just polite nods and little smiles as she walked past in floral dresses that didn't belong in a mansion like mine. She'd hum while making tea in the kitchen at 6 a.m., like this was a goddamn countryside cottage instead of a Manhattan fortress. I told myself to ignore her, but then I noticed how she always tucked her hair behind her ear before speaking, how she bit her lip when she was nervous, how her skin flushed when I looked at her just a second too long. And suddenly, she wasn't forgettable. She was in the way. I brought a model home the second night. Swedish. Legs for days. The kind who knew how to behave in a setting like mine. Glasses of champagne, silk on the floor, zero complications. But just as I pressed her against the elevator wall, ready to wipe Harper from my mind, the door slid open, and there she was, standing barefoot, in my shirt. It wasn't intentional, I knew that. She probably hadn't expected company. But fuck, the universe has a twisted sense of humor. She froze. So did I. The model giggled. Harper didn't. Her eyes met mine, wide, green, calm. And I'll be damned if I didn't feel something sharp twist in my chest. Not shame. Not guilt. Possessiveness. Like she had any right to affect me. I didn't say a word. Just let the elevator close again. But that night, I couldn't finish what I started. Not because I wasn't in the mood. Because I couldn't get the image out of my head. Harper. In my shirt. In my space. In my goddamn thoughts. She wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't about kisses or connection. This was business. So why the hell did it suddenly feel so personal?
Living in a mansion with Lorenzo Bianchi is like sleeping in a rose garden with thorns pointing inward. It's beautiful, painfully so. But you know, eventually you'll bleed. He's distant most days. Civil, cold. Sometimes he nods when I walk by. Sometimes he doesn't even look up. He doesn't ask about my day. Doesn't know I still water the same 3 plants on the balcony every morning. Or that I talk to my sister on the phone every Sunday. But I know the sound of his footsteps when he's coming down the hall. I know which whiskey he pours when he's restless. And I know the way he looks at women who aren't me. That part hurts more than it should. But the nights are louder. I hear him through the walls. The low murmurs. The soft gasps. The quiet creak of silk sheets and female laughter muffled against expensive pillows. Different women. Always temporary. Always gone by morning. He doesn't hide it. And I don't ask. Because I signed up for this. Because I told myself I didn't care. But one night I saw her. A tall redhead with a cruel smile and a backless dress. Sliding into his car like she belonged there. I was standing by the elevator, pretending to scroll through my phone. Pretending not to feel anything at all. And yet, I felt everything. Earlier that day, I'd been in the laundry room downstairs when the machine overflowed. All my clothes were soaked. My dress, my blouse, even my backup jeans. I'd gone up to the 3rd floor of the mansion in a towel, cheeks flaming, and knocked on Lorenzo's door. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. He wasn't home. I hesitated, then pushed the door open. The room was immaculate. Cold. Almost sterile. But the closet was cracked open, and that's where I found it. A crisp white dress shirt, hanging alone like an invitation. I shouldn't have touched it, but I was freezing and tired. And it smelled like him, cedar and skin and something dark that clung to my pulse long after I slipped it on. That same night, he reminded me about the gala for global artisans. Big event, big cameras, big expectations.
We're something that says wife, not florist.
He said as he adjusted his cufflinks. I chose a black satin dress that hugged every inch of me like a secret. I didn't do it for him. I did it because for once, I wanted to feel like I could be the kind of woman that made him pause. Just once. When we stepped out of the car, the flashes started. Paparazzi shouted his name, then mine. And then, without warning, he turned to me, tilted my chin with 2 fingers, and kissed me. Not a peck, not a staged smile and smooch. His mouth claimed mine like it had every right to. Slow and devastating. Like he wanted them all to watch. Like he was proving something. His lips were warm, firm, tasting faintly of bourbon and tension. I forgot the cameras. Forgot my name. My knees wobbled, and I gripped his lapel to stay grounded. His hand found my waist. Fingers brushing bare skin with maddening restraint. When he pulled away, the world spun. He whispered, so low I barely caught it.
They needed a show.
But the way he looked at me after, that wasn't acting. And the heat pooling low in my belly, that wasn't part of the contract.
There's a particular kind of madness that creeps in when you're too close to something you were never supposed to want. It starts slow, harmless even. A brush of her elbow at the breakfast table. The way she hums while trimming the gardenias in the back terrace. The scent of fresh-cut stems and something softer. Maybe her skin, maybe the perfume she wears. Maybe just the idea of her, lingering in the hallways long after she's gone. I tell myself it's nothing, that it's just proximity, familiarity. But then I see her barefoot in the garden, morning sunlight spilling over her like it chose her, dancing in those golden strands of hair that fall in soft waves down her back. She's crouched between the roses, her hands deep in the soil, a faint smudge of dirt across her cheek. She doesn't see me watching from the balcony. She's smiling at nothing, just smiling, like she's free, like this isn't a contract or a transaction, but life. I grip the iron railing until my knuckles turn white. She doesn't belong here, and yet she fits. Her presence used to be background noise. Now it's everything. Now I can't walk into a room without scanning for her. I used to enjoy other women, their perfume, their distraction, the way they never asked for more. But lately when one calls, I let it ring. When one texts, I don't reply. I don't want them. I want her. And God help me, I keep going back to that kiss outside the gala. I told myself it was just a show, a distraction for the cameras, a game for the press. But it didn't feel like a game. Not when my hand cradled her face and I tasted the warmth of her mouth. Not when the world blurred and all I could think was finally. Her lips against mine felt like something I'd been chasing without knowing it. Like I'd opened a door I wasn't ready to close. And now, days later, it still haunts me. That kiss. Not for how it looked, but for how it felt. Like home. And the worst part, I don't want to stop it. I want to taste that smile. I want to pull her into the shadows of this cold mansion and make her forget this was ever an arrangement. I want to ruin the rules we wrote together, slowly, deliberately, until nothing's left but heat and truth. Because Harper Collins, with her dirt-stained fingers and sunshine skin, is no longer part of my plan. She's the part one never saw coming.
I never meant to fall in love with Italy, and I sure as hell didn't mean to fall into bed with my husband. But there we were. Lorenzo had a business emergency in Florence, something about a land deal going sideways, and his assistant couldn't fly out last minute. So, somehow, I became the stand-in travel companion, a public wife, a silent partner. Just for appearances, we landed in Tuscany at golden hour. The villa overlooked endless hills of olive trees and vineyards that bled into the horizon. It was too beautiful to be real, like we'd stepped into a painting that smelled like lavender and tasted like ripe grapes and sunlight.
This is just for 3 days.
He told me, handing me a glass of wine as we watched the sun slip behind the hills.
No drama. No confusion.
I nodded, but the way his eyes lingered on me said otherwise. That night, there was a storm. One of those late summer, soul-soaking rains that turns the sky electric and makes everything feel urgent. We were already tipsy, maybe a little drunk. One bottle too many. My legs bare beneath a silk slip. My hair damp from walking out onto the terrace in the rain. Lorenzo had followed me out there, barefoot, with that damn look in his eyes. The look he gave me when he forgot I was just the girl who signed the contract.
You're not like them.
He said, low like it hurt to admit it. And you're not supposed to say things like that, I replied, though I was already trembling. Inside, lightning flashed. Outside, the rain poured harder. And in that tiny space between pretending and surrender, he kissed me. It wasn't soft. It was days of wanting, of holding back, of late-night glances and breathless silences. His hands were warm and firm and everywhere. I let him lift me onto the kitchen counter. Let him slide the strap off my shoulder. Let him push the silk away, like he'd been waiting a lifetime. Then, just before he lost control completely, he pulled back.
Are you? I don't have anything. A condom.
He breathed against my neck. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely speak. I'm on the pill, I whispered. He stared at me for a heartbeat, like he was giving himself one last chance to walk away. He didn't, and I didn't stop him. The rain was still tapping gently against the windows when he lifted me off the counter and carried me to the master bedroom, as if I weighed nothing, like I was something precious. His arms were strong and warm, and I could feel the tension in his body, the restraint. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He laid me on the bed like I was silk, hovering above me. his eyes searching mine as if asking, "Are you sure?" And I was. God, I was. His hands moved slowly at first, reverent. He traced the line of my collarbone down to my chest, like memorizing the shape of me. My body arched under his touch, craving more. When his lips followed the trail of his fingers, heat exploded under my skin. There was something about the way he worshipped me, like I was more than a contract, that undid me completely. He kissed me like a man who had been starving, but didn't want to rush the meal. His mouth moved from my neck to the swell of my breast, and lower, until I was gasping his name, fingers tangled in his hair, thighs trembling around him. And still, he didn't rush. It wasn't just about need. It was about the ache behind it. When he finally came back up and slid inside me, he did it slowly, inch by inch, watching my face like it was art. We both gasped, the moment thick with something neither of us could name. His hips met mine, and we began to move together like we were made for it. It wasn't wild. It wasn't rough. It was deep, intimate. His fingers laced with mine above my head. His mouth brushed my cheek as he whispered things in Italian I didn't understand, but felt anyway. Words like honey, like warmth curling in my chest. I'd never been touched like that before. Not like I was something to feel, not conquer. Not like I mattered. When we finally came undone, it wasn't just our bodies that shattered. It was the walls between us. He held me afterward, really held me, and I let him. No jokes, no pretending, just skin against skin, heart against heart. And as I lay there, curled into him, his arm heavy around my waist and his breath soft against my hair, I realized something terrifying and true. I wasn't pretending anymore. And maybe neither was he.
She was still asleep when I opened my eyes. Her head rested on my chest, one leg tangled possessively over mine, and her fingers curled softly against my ribs like they belonged there. It should have felt good. Instead, it felt like a goddamn warning. The kind that flares in your chest before everything crashes down. I stared at the ceiling, heartbeat too steady for a man who'd just spent the night inside a woman like Harper. It wasn't the sex. Sex I understood. I'd perfected it, but last night hadn't been about release. It had been about her. Her laugh in the vineyard. Her mouth parting under mine. The way she looked at me after, like she saw more than I'd ever let her. It was dangerous. I needed control. Control is how empires are built, and how they survive. But this woman in my bed, wrapped around me like I was hers, she was unraveling me. And I fucking liked it. That scared the hell out of me. I slid out from under her carefully, breathing her in one last time, wildflowers and sin. Her skin was warm, golden in the morning light, and her lips slightly parted like she was still whispering my name in sleep. I pulled on my slacks and stepped out onto the balcony, needing space, air, clarity. Tuscany stretched before me like a painting, all sun-drenched hills and olive trees. But I felt none of its peace. This wasn't the deal. No love. No family, no complications, and yet last night had felt like all three. I closed my eyes, jaw tight. I could hear her shifting inside, the rustle of sheets, the soft yawn that would follow. Soon, she'd walk out here barefoot, still wearing the linen shirt I peeled off myself, smile up at me with those eyes that make me forget everything else. No, this ends now. I needed to restore boundaries, to remind her, and myself, what this was. A contract. A favor. A solution. Not a fucking fairy tale. I walked back inside as she sat up, brushing hair from her eyes.
Morning,
She said, voice still raspy from sleep and last night's pleasure. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, too long. Long enough to feel the pull I had no right to feel. Then I forced the words. That was a mistake. Her face changed. Slight, but enough to punch the breath from my lungs. Before she could speak, I turned away. I'm going downstairs. We leave for Milan this afternoon. My voice was cold. Too cold. But it had to be. Because if I stayed, if I touched her again, I wouldn't survive what she was slowly doing to me.
It's strange how something so small can carry the weight of your entire life. A tiny plastic stick, hidden in my purse, pressed against my thigh like a secret burning through fabric. My hands shook as I unlocked the door to the bathroom. Lorenzo wasn't home, thank God. I don't think I could have handled his ice blade stare while holding something so delicate. I set the bag on the marble counter and stared at my reflection. Pale, tight-lipped. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure it would echo through the walls. 1 month. 1 month since Tuscany. Since that night, his mouth on mine, rough with urgency. The way he looked at me after, like I wasn't just some woman tied to a contract, but something else. Something he needed. He asked me if I was on the pill. I was, but I could still hear the sound of his voice, low and strained.
You sure?
And I'd said yes. I was sure, and yet here I was. I opened the test, did what needed to be done, set it on the counter like it might bite me, and waited. 3 minutes can feel like eternity when you're measuring it against the rest of your life. I paced, then sat, then stood again. My stomach twisted in knots, not from nerves, but something else entirely. I'd felt off for a week. Nausea in the mornings. Fatigue that made it hard to keep up with the remote management of my flower shop. And some days, I was too exhausted to even care for the plants around the mansion. Cravings I couldn't explain. The missed period was the final blow. I walked back to the counter, heart in my throat. 2 lines, 2 bold, undeniable lines. My breath left me in a soft, broken sound. I was pregnant. I leaned forward, gripping the edge of the sink, forehead pressed to cold marble. My knees almost gave out, but I didn't cry. Not yet. What the hell was I going to do? A baby. A child. Created on a night that wasn't supposed to mean anything. A night he'd called a mistake. After that, Lorenzo hadn't touched me, had barely looked at me. He kept things polite, distant, professional, as if I were some extension of a business deal he regretted signing. And now this. What would he say? Hell, I already knew. Lorenzo didn't want a family. That was in the contract. No love, no children. My hand rested on my stomach. Flat now, innocent, but not for long. I wasn't ready. I'd never planned on being a mother. Not now, maybe not ever. But there was something terrifyingly powerful in knowing there was life inside me. His life. Our life. God, what if he asked me to get rid of it? No. I straightened, clutched the test in my hand, and stood tall. He could reject me, freeze me out, disappear into one of his other mansions or penthouses for all I cared. But this baby was mine too. I had a choice, and I was done letting Lorenzo Bianchi dictate every corner of my life with cold contracts and colder eyes. He would know, soon, but I'd walk into that confrontation not as the woman who signed his rules, but as the woman carrying what none of us planned for, but might just change everything.
I didn't recognize the sound that came from me when she said the words.
I'm pregnant.
It echoed through the room like a gunshot, but everything after that, her voice, her expression, blurred beneath the blood pounding in my ears. I stood still, stone, except my heart, which was beating like it wanted out of my chest. Pregnant. That word was never supposed to be part of this agreement. No children, no emotional debris, just clean lines and boundaries we both agreed to. But Harper, she had crossed a line I didn't even know I'd drawn with ink so thick. I laughed, a bitter, dry thing. You expect me to believe that this was an accident? Her eyes flinched, just a little, but enough to tell me I'd already cut too deep. Still, I couldn't stop, couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. All I saw was a future I never planned for. A child, a family, love, dependence, and I didn't do well with cages, even ones made of flowers and soft hands. You said you were on birth control. I snapped.
I still am. Things happen.
She said, quiet, but steady. Things happen. This wasn't just something that happened. It was a bomb in the middle of my carefully constructed empire, right between international mergers and airtight contracts. My father once told me, the moment you lose control, you lose everything. I was losing everything. I turned away from her before I said something worse. Something cruel enough to leave a permanent scar on that porcelain heart of hers. But she followed me, Of course she did,
Lorenzo, I didn't do this to trap you.
she said, not demanding. Just tired. Trap. God, the word made my stomach twist. Because that's exactly how it felt. Like the walls of my mansion were closing in. Like her scent, jasmine and sun, was invading every inch of me, and I couldn't shake it off. I wanted to scream, or drink, or forget the way her lips tasted when she moaned my name. The way her body arched under mine like we were made for that night in Tuscany. But I couldn't forget. And now, I couldn't undo it either. A child. With Harper. That should have terrified me. And it did. But somewhere, buried beneath the fury in my chest, there was another truth clawing its way to the surface. I wasn't angry because she was pregnant. I was angry because the idea of losing her, of not being a part of that future, scared me more than I was willing to admit. And that fear, it felt an awful lot like love, which, of course, made me even more furious. So I did the only thing I knew how to do when the ground beneath me cracked open. I pushed her away, hard, and watched as her eyes dimmed just enough to make me hate myself. But it was better this way. It had to be, didn't it?
There was something sacred about early morning silence, especially when you were quietly falling apart. I folded the last of my sweaters into the suitcase. My fingers were shaking, but I didn't let them stop. If I paused, even for a second, I might lose the strength I'd managed to scrape together during a night spent staring at the ceiling, replaying his words over and over. The rage, the doubt in his voice, the accusation behind his eyes, like I'd somehow orchestrated this pregnancy as a strategy. I wasn't a strategist. I was just a woman who made the mistake of feeling too much for a man who only knew how to build walls. But not anymore. I zipped the suitcase, stood tall, and walked out of the guest room that had never really felt like mine. My sandals echoed on the marble as I passed through the vast, cold halls of the mansion, the same halls I'd once danced barefoot through, laughing, thinking maybe this man was something real. Foolish. He was there, leaning against the kitchen counter, coffee untouched, the top buttons of his shirt undone like he'd been too distracted to finish getting dressed. When our eyes met, something flickered. Maybe regret, maybe pride, maybe nothing at all.
You're leaving,
He said, voice low, unreadable. Yes. I tightened my grip on the suitcase handle. You made it clear there's no room here for me. Or the baby. His jaw tensed, like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. Of course he didn't. I'm not asking you for anything, Lorenzo, I added, holding my voice steady. Not support, not pity, and definitely not love. He flinched just a little. I stepped closer, the air between us charged and heavy. I could still smell him, sandalwood and storm. My eyes burned, but I wouldn't let the tears fall. Not in front of him. Not today. I'll raise this baby alone. I'll make it work. I always make it work. I gave a soft, bitter smile. Because flowers don't only bloom in sunlight. Some of them grow through concrete. That did it. Something broke in his expression. Like I'd reached a place he didn't want me to see. His fingers twitched at his side. Like he wanted to reach for me, but didn't know how.
I didn't expect you to leave.
He said finally, I know. I whispered. Then I walked past him, leaving behind the scent of jasmine, heartbreak, and a promise I never wanted to break. He didn't follow, and that told me everything.
They say silence is peace. Whoever said that clearly never stood in the middle of a mansion filled with ghosts. The first morning without Harper was quiet. The second was unbearable. I walked past the garden, her garden, and there were wilted petals where vibrant colors used to spill. The leaves drooped like they were mourning too. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself she had left, and that was that. A clean cut. No attachments. We had a contract, not a damn fairy tale. But contracts don't haunt you at night. Her laughter doesn't echo in legal documents. The way she used to hum when pruning roses, the faint scent of jasmine that clung to her sweaters, the way her fingers brushed against mine when she handed me coffee. All of that. It had carved its way into me quietly. without permission. Now the silence feels sharp, like thorns without the bloom. I sat in the study for hours today, pretending to read a report while my eyes drifted toward the door. Pathetic. I haven't slept in my bed since she left. I keep expecting her to walk in barefoot, maybe wearing one of my shirts again, teasing me with that soft smile, like she didn't just unravel me cell by cell. She was supposed to be a strategy, a name on a marriage license, a transaction. But every time I tried to pull away, she got closer. Without even trying, she made my house feel like home. And I let her. That's the worst part. I let her in. Now the espresso tastes bitter. The mansion smells too clean, too empty. And I keep thinking about that last look in her eyes, how it didn't beg or plead. It just hurt, like she finally realized she deserved more than what I was willing to give. She was right. But God, I miss her. Not her body, not the convenience. Her. The way she used to press her hands into the soil like it could carry her weight. The way she fought so hard to smile even when I pushed her away. The strength in her softness. And now, I'm surrounded by everything I used to want. Success, solitude, control. And none of it fucking matters. She's gone. And the silence? It's screaming her name.
I didn't expect the world to keep spinning after I left him. But it did. Slowly, painfully, but it did. The morning I opened the door to my flower shop again, the scent of damp earth and eucalyptus hit me like a memory I hadn't known I missed. Everything was still here. Vases I collected over the years, my grandmother's rusted pruning shears, a cracked teacup that now held wild violets. It smelled like home, like me, except I wasn't the same woman who left. There's a quiet ache in my body now, not from the heartbreak, though that lingered in the crevices. This was deeper, lower, a pulsing reminder that someone was growing inside me. Life, tiny, delicate, terrifying life. Pregnancy was nothing like I imagined. I thought it would be romantic, magical, but the truth? Some days I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Other days, I'd stand at the window of my apartment above the shop and watch the light dance on my belly and whisper, "I'm still here. We're still here." I kept a small bouquet on the windowsill. I changed it every week. White ranunculus for endurance, peach roses for gratitude, lavender for peace, and one single yellow tulip, because hope, as it turns out, doesn't need permission to bloom. The customers noticed I was quieter now. Softer, maybe. I didn't offer as many suggestions or charm them with stories like before. But when my fingers touched the stems, when I was arranging wildflowers or bundling herbs, I felt like I belonged again. Like maybe I didn't need to be someone's anything to still be whole. Lorenzo never called. Not once. Part of me hated him for that. For the silence. For the distance. But another part, the one learning to breathe again, was grateful. Because without his cold, calculated love, I'd never have found the fire in mine. The truth is, I still think of him. I still feel him in the strangest places. The citrusy bite of blood oranges. The crisp press of linen sheets. The way certain songs make me ache in places I'd buried too deep. But I don't cry for him anymore. I cry when I can't button in my favorite dress. I cry when I can't stomach coffee. I cry when I feel the flutter, soft, impossibly gentle, just beneath my ribs. A first hello, and when I wipe my tears and look down at my belly, I remind myself, this isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of everything. So I'll keep tending the soil. I'll keep arranging flowers in my window. And maybe, just maybe, I'll learn to bloom again on my own.
There are memories you bury so deep, you start to believe they never happened. But the past has claws. It doesn't knock, it digs. It started with a box. A simple one. Cardboard. Dusty. Forgotten at the back of my father's office. I hadn't set foot in that part of the estate in years. The air was stale, thick with silence and old grief. I don't know what pulled me there that afternoon. Restlessness, maybe. Guilt. Or just Harper. The box was unmarked, but I knew. Even before I opened it. Photographs. Letters. A small, faded envelope in my mother's handwriting. I hadn't seen it since she left. I was 11. She never said goodbye, just vanished. A suitcase in silence. And me, standing at the top of the stairs, holding a wilted daisy I'd picked for her. She said she loved me, and then she left. I used to think it was my fault, that I wasn't enough. So I built walls, first with anger, then with ambition. And when even that didn't quiet the ache, I made a promise. I would never become them. Never love carelessly. Never need anyone so badly they could break me. And I kept that promise. Until Harper, the woman who smelled like jasmine and stubbornness. Who looked at me like I wasn't just a name on a contract. Who touched me like I was something more than stone. I told myself I didn't want a family, that I didn't believe in love. But the truth? I've been craving it all my life. And when she gave it to me, when she gave us to me, I ran. Because loving her meant letting go of control. Because seeing that pregnancy test felt like standing at the edge of a cliff with no parachute. Because I thought I'd rather fall alone than risk dragging her down with me. But alone isn't strength. It's survival. And for the first time in my life, I don't want to survive. I want more. I want messy. I want laughter and crying in the kitchen and tiny socks lost in the laundry. I want a child who knows they'll never be left behind. I want Harper. God, I want her. And I don't know if it's too late. But if it is, I'll tear down every goddamn wall I built trying to protect myself just to reach her. Because love isn't what broke me. Abandonment did. And I won't pass that legacy on. Not to my child. Not to the woman who gave me a reason to feel again. I thought I was escaping my parents' mistakes. But I've only been repeating them in silence. No more. It's time to stop hiding behind broken roots and start planting something new.
I didn't hear the chime over the door. I didn't even lift my head when the bell rang. Just kept trimming the stems of the pale pink ranunculus that had arrived that morning, lost in the scent of damp petals and the soft hum of Norah Jones, playing low through the shop speakers. But something shifted, like the air had changed, thickened. I looked up, and there he was, Lorenzo Bianchi, in my flower shop. No tie, no suit, no goddamn armor. His hair was tousled, like he hadn't bothered to smooth it down. The sleeves of his white button-up were rolled to the elbows, revealing the arms I remembered gripping the edges of my hips in Tuscany. But his eyes, that stormy green the first swore I'd stopped dreaming about, were raw, naked. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, one hand shoved in his pocket, the other holding a single white tulip. A tulip? Don't, I whispered before I could stop myself. Don't come here with pretty flowers and prettier apologies. I turned back to the ranunculus. My fingers trembled slightly, but I kept cutting. 3 months. 3 months of trying to forget him. 3 months of nausea, mood swings, midnight fears. Of holding my belly with one hand and my pride with the other. He didn't get to waltz back in now, like he hadn't vanished the moment it got real.
I'm not here to give you words.
I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Not yet.
I never knew how to say the right things. Hell, I still don't. I didn't grow up watching anyone love right. I only knew how to run, how to close doors before someone else could slam them.
His voice was lower now, closer. The silence between us was the kind that pressed into skin.
I'm not good at this, but I've had 3 months to feel what it's like without you. Without your laughter in my house. Without the smell of jasmine on my pillows. Without the sound of your heartbeat when you sleep against my chest.
He continued, rough and bare. My hands stilled over the flowers.
I don't know how to love, Harper. Not the way you deserve. But I want to learn.
A beat.
With you.
The tears hit fast and hot, blurring the blooms in front of me. I hated him for making me cry again. I hated that part of me still ached for him. But most of all, I hated how much I wanted to believe him. I finally turned. He was standing just a few feet away now. No shield in his expression. No walls. Just Lorenzo, the man who once shattered me, now breaking himself wide open in the middle of my flower shop. I crossed my arms, not because I wanted distance, but because I didn't trust what I'd do with my hands otherwise. I don't need poetry, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I don't need grand speeches or damn tulips. His throat bobbed.
Then what do you need?
Actions. I stepped toward him. Show me you're not going to run the next time life gets messy. Show me you'll be here when the baby cries at 3 a.m. Show me you can stay. Lorenzo reached into his pocket. I expected a ring, a necklace, something extravagant, his usual way of masking fear with luxury. But instead, he pulled out a single dried bloom, faded, delicate, yet still holding on to its color. It was one of mine, a flower I had planted in the garden at the mansion months ago, when I still believed I might belong there.
I didn't know what to bring. I don't have ultrasound pictures or baby clothes. I wasn't there, and that's on me. But I saw this flower the morning you left. It was still standing, still alive. So I kept it. I guess it reminded me of you.
He said quietly, eyes locked on mine. And just like that, something cracked. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something softer. Something that felt like maybe. Then I took a breath. And for the first time in 3 months, I let myself look into his eyes and not flinch. Because maybe, just maybe, a man who says he doesn't know how to love, but is willing to learn, might be worth the risk.
I hadn't rehearsed anything. No strategy. No careful lines. No plan. Just the hum of my engine and the sound of her name in my chest like a heartbeat I'd ignored for too long. Harper. She stood behind the counter, wiping her hands on that worn apron, eyes wary, spine straight. Beautiful in a way that stripped the air from my lungs. Not polished or posed. Just real. God, I'd missed real. The silence between us held weight. Weeks' worth. Maybe a lifetime's. I didn't speak. Not yet. I turned, walked back out to the car, my heart banging like it was trying to get free. In the glove compartment, under business contracts and leather folders, and every polished illusion of the man I thought I needed to be, it was there. The contract. The damn contract that started all of this. I returned to her with it in my hand. The past, printed and signed and stupidly binding. She looked down at it, then back at me.
What is that?
I didn't answer. I just met her eyes, held them, and tore the fucking thing in half. One rip, then another, and another, until nothing was left but a mess of shredded paper at my feet. No clauses, no signatures, no more walls, I said, my voice low but steady. You're not obligated to me. You never were. She didn't move, not even a blink. But something flickered. Caution, or hope. Maybe both. I won't beg, I added, and I won't bribe you to come back. But I needed you to see it. I needed you to know that if you come home, it's your choice. Not mine. Yours. Her breath caught. Just slightly. A subtle tremble in her lips. I stepped closer, but not too close. Not this time. This was never about power for me, Harper. It was fear. I was terrified of needing someone the way I cut myself off. Swallowed. The way I need you. The words burned going down. But they were true. And if you'd rather raise this baby here, surrounded by flowers and sunlight and people who don't flinch at the word love, I'll walk away. I'll never stop helping. But I'll walk. I ran a hand through my hair, rougher than I meant to. I just needed you to know, for the first time in my life, I want to build something without rules. Without conditions. With you. The silence cracked. Not broken, but cracked. She stared at the shredded contract, then at me. And in that moment, under the scent of roses and earth and something achingly familiar, I realized this wasn't a grand gesture. It was surrender. And for a man like me, that was everything.
He didn't kiss me right away. He just stood there, in the cramped doorway of my little studio behind the shop, breathing like the world might collapse if he took one step closer. And maybe it would, because I wasn't the same woman he left behind. And he wasn't the same man I once begged to feel something. But God, how I still wanted him. My hands trembled as I closed the door behind us. I couldn't even look at him, not with the storm still heavy in my chest, not with my heart screaming every word I'd held back for months. You don't get to show up, I said, voice breaking, and tear up a contract like that fixes everything.
I know, but I had to start somewhere.
He murmured, No fight in his voice. Just honesty. Silence. Thick. Fragile. I hated how good he smelled, like cedar and rain and the flower I planted by the kitchen window of his mansion. The one I swore he never noticed. But he had. He'd noticed everything, felt everything, and buried it until there was no room left for us. I turned away. You hurt me.
I know.
And you made me feel small. Disposable.
I know.
Then why the hell do I still want to kiss you? That got him. His breath hitched like I'd sucker punched him. I didn't wait for him to answer. I just looked at him, truly looked, and saw the rawness in his eyes. Not arrogance. Not control. Just a man stripped of armor, holding nothing but regret and this wild, stupid kind of love that had no business surviving what we'd been through. I don't want promises, I whispered.
I'm not giving you any, only truth.
He said, voice rough. Then he crossed the space between us and kissed me like it hurt, like it was the first and last time he'd ever be allowed. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't slow. It was heat and teeth and desperation. Months of silence and fury unraveling with every frantic touch. Clothes fell, walls shattered, and somewhere between his hands on my hips and my mouth at his throat, the grief turned into something else. Something holy. He carried me to the bed, like he'd done it 1,000 times in his mind. But this time he asked, with his eyes, his mouth, his hands, every inch of him begged for forgiveness. Not just from me, but from himself. The bed was too small for how much space we needed to close between us. We moved like time owed us something, like the universe had kept us apart too long, and now it was making up for it in urgent, hungry waves. He kissed me like a man starved, not just for my body, but for forgiveness, for closeness. His hands weren't just strong, they were reverent, as if every inch of me was something sacred he thought he'd lost. Clothes disappeared in silence, piece by piece, until it was just skin against skin, breath against breath. My back arched under the weight of his mouth on my neck, his voice rough with regret and wanting.
I should have come back sooner. I should have fought harder.
My fingers threaded through his hair, tugging just enough to feel him groan against my throat. Then, don't let me go again, I breathed. What we shared wasn't rushed. It was slow and deep, filled with the kind of heat that didn't burn but melted. Our rhythm found its own tempo, rising and falling like tides that knew each other too well to rush. His hands explored boldly, cupping, tracing, memorizing every contour with reverence and desire. My nails raked down his back, pulling him closer, desperate to feel him fully, to erase the months of silence between us. The world outside ceased to exist. All that remained was the slick heat between us, the slick glide of skin meeting skin in a rhythm both desperate and intimate. Lorenzo's breath was ragged now, lips grazing my jawline and down my shoulder, sending shivers racing through me. Each movement was slow, deliberate, like a confession made in whispers, a promise sealed in every touch. I arched into him, matching his pace, surrendering to the wave of sensation that built between us. The room filled with soft moans and whispered names, the sound of our bodies coming together in a dance as old as time. His fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer as if afraid I might vanish, and I clung to him just the same. When we came, it was fierce and consuming, a release not just of bodies but of all the pain, longing, and hope tangled inside us. We collapsed together, breathless and trembling, wrapped in each other's arms like a fragile promise. He held me like he was afraid I'd disappear again. I held him like I finally believed he wouldn't. And when it was over, when our bodies calmed but our hearts still raced, he didn't move. He stayed, his forehead pressed to mine, his thumb brushing slow circles on my hip. No more contracts, no more distance, just us, tangled in a too small bed, finally fitting exactly where we belonged.
I never thought a sound could split me open. Not like this. Not with just 4 syllables and a pulsing rhythm that didn't belong to me. but somehow now did. It's a Tuesday. Raining. Of course it is. The city always seems to cry for me when I can't. I sit in the small, sterile room beside Harper, pretending like my spine isn't rigid, like my lungs aren't locked in some brutal rhythm of anticipation. She doesn't say much. Her hand rests gently over the slight swell of her belly. That curve that still doesn't feel real to me, not fully. Not until the cold gel touches her skin and the machine crackles to life. And then, there it is. The heartbeat. Rapid. Wild. Alive. A second rhythm. Tiny. Fierce. Ours. Something in me breaks. No, not breaks. Cracks open. Like a frozen river thawing in spring. Like breath after too long underwater. I don't even realize I've stood up until I'm next to her, hand hovering just above her stomach. Not touching. Not yet. I'm not sure I deserve to. Not after all the ways I failed her. Not after how many times I chose distance instead of truth. But this sound, it doesn't give a damn about my guilt. It's pure, untouched by my coldness, beating like it already knows love. Trust. Me. I sit again, slower this time. Eyes still locked on that flickering shape on the screen. And suddenly I'm not breathing. Because I see them. Not just a blur. Not a vague shadow. A shape. A child. Our child. They're there. Head bowed. Spine curled. Arms moving. Tiny hands, fingers. A heartbeat pounding like a drum I can feel in my throat. The tech smiles.
You're just past 16 weeks. Look, there's the profile.
Profile. God. I stare. A nose. A mouth. A slight turn like they're already impatient with being watched. I don't know if it's a boy or girl yet. We'll find out soon. But in this moment, it doesn't matter. Because they are real. Alive. The living proof of a night that was never supposed to mean so much. And yet meant everything. I don't even realize I've stood up until I'm next to her, hand hovering just above her stomach. Not touching. Not yet. I shouldn't be this wrecked. This undone. But I am. This isn't business. This isn't reputation. This is real. I sit again, slower this time. Eyes still locked on the screen.
There. The heartbeat looks strong.
The text says softly. But I already know. I feel it. 2 heartbeats. Hers. Mine. And now theirs. I glance at Harper. Her eyes shimmer. She's holding it together, but barely. And then I remember that kiss at the gala. How I told myself it was just for the paparazzi. A performance. A distraction. But I lied. Because nothing I've ever done on a red carpet ever made my knees shake. She looks at me now like she's waiting for something. Permission. Redemption. Maybe both. I reach for her hand. She lets me take it. Her fingers tremble in mine, but she doesn't pull away. Harper, I whisper, voice low, rough, reverent. You were wrong about one thing. She blinks at me, cautious. Curious. I don't think love weakens me, I say. I think it's the only thing that ever made me whole. And then I look back at the screen. At them. Moving. Alive. Ours. I press my lips to her temple and close my eyes. Because for once, I don't need control. I don't need armor. I don't need distance. I need this. I need them. And God help me, I'll do anything to deserve it.
I used to think home was a place. For walls. A roof. Maybe a view if you're lucky. Somewhere safe where you can breathe without looking over your shoulder. But tonight, sweat clinging to my skin, hospital gown half undone, tears drying on my cheeks. I realized I was wrong. Because home is a man with tired eyes, holding our baby like they're the most fragile, precious thing he's ever touched. Home is the way he looks at me like I build a galaxy just by surviving labor. Like I'm the center of something he didn't know he needed. And when I say he, I don't mean the baby. I mean Lorenzo, the man who once shoved a contract across a table like love was a transaction. The man who once swore he'd never let anyone get close enough to hurt him again. Now he's holding our child, skin to skin, and whispering words so soft, I almost don't hear them. Words not meant for me. Meant for the tiny human curled against his chest, warm and new and real.
I've got you. You're safe. I swear it.
He says, voice cracking. I could cry again, but not from pain this time. From love. from the kind of truth no document could ever hold. The nurse gives us a moment, and the room settles into a sacred silence. Just the sound of our baby breathing, and his heartbeat, and mine. Lorenzo looks at me like he's seeing me for the first time, and maybe he is. Maybe this version of me, undone and reborn all at once, is new to both of us.
You did this. You made us a family.
I shake my head, a soft laugh breaking through my exhaustion. We did this. He walks toward the bed, slow and reverent, and gently places the baby in my arms. Our skin touches, and I swear something inside me blooms. My ribs expand around a heart that never beat this fully before.
You should sleep.
He murmurs, brushing damp strands of hair from my face. But I don't want to sleep. I want to remember everything. The way he smells like leather and newborn skin. The way his shirt is wrinkled and stained from pacing the hallway like a madman for 12 hours straight. The way his lips linger at my temple longer than necessary. Like he's memorizing me. Like he never wants to forget the moment he stopped being just a man and started being ours. There's no more contract. No more negotiation. Only this. Only us. And when I meet his eyes, I see it finally. What I've been waiting for since the very beginning. A home. Not in the mansion. Not in the wealth. Not in the careful words or the fear of falling. In him. And as our baby stirs softly against my chest, I realize something else. Love doesn't come crashing in like thunder. Sometimes it takes root quietly, softly, like a flower that blooms one petal at a time, until one day you wake up and realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're growing, and you're doing it together.
They say time changes people. I used to think that was bullshit. I thought people were static, predictable, like ledgers. Add the right numbers, subtract the losses, and you always get the same answer. I built an empire on logic, on control, on keeping things exactly as I needed them to be. But then she walked into my life with dirt under her fingernails and fire in her eyes. And then he came, our son, tiny, loud, and miraculous. Now here I am, standing at the altar of a church I never thought I'd set foot in a suit that doesn't feel stiff for once. Waiting for the two people who broke every rule I had and made me grateful for it. The doors open, and everything stops. There's no music, no breath, just them. Harper, God, Harper. She's in white, but not the kind you see in bridal magazines. Her dress is soft and simple, the fabric flowing like it was made just for her. Her hair is down in loose waves, a tiny gardenia tucked behind her ear. And in her arms, balanced like she was born to carry him, is our son. Our boy, 1 year old. A mess of dark curls in Harper's eyes. He clutches her neckline with one chubby fist and waves with the other, giggling like this whole church was built just for him. My knees nearly give out, not because I'm nervous, but because I finally understand what people mean when they say blessed. I used to hate that word, too soft, too vague. But right now, it's the only one that fits. She walks toward me slowly, her gaze locked to mine, and something tightens in my chest. I used to think Harper Collins was a solution, a distraction, a temporary fix for a long-term inconvenience. But she became love, raw, relentless, real. And that boy in her arms, the one I once feared would ruin my life, he's the reason I wake up every morning and fight to be better than I was the day before. He's not a mistake. He's 1,000 reasons. She reaches me and smiles, calm, steady, like she knows exactly who I am and loves me anyway. I take the baby from her arms, and he settles against my chest like he's always belonged there. Harper's hand finds mine, fingers lacing easily, naturally, like they've done it 1,000 times. I look down at her, my wife, my storm, my softness, and I know something I didn't a year ago. Family isn't something you sign. It's something you build with sweat, with heartache, with hope. It's waking up in the middle of the night to rock a fevered child. It's saying sorry even when pride wants to win. It's choosing love every single day, even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy. The priest begins to speak, but I barely hear him. All I see is Harper. All I feel is the tiny heartbeat against mine. And all I know is that this is the legacy I want to leave behind. Not boardrooms, not bank accounts, But this family, the one I never planned for, the one that saved me. Tuscany smells like summer and memories. It's been over a year since the last time we were here, but the hills haven't changed. Neither has the wine, or the way the sunset hits her skin like it was painted for her alone. We're back at the villa, our villa now. The same place where we first shared truths neither of us were ready for. The same stone walls that once held our silence now echo with laughter, footsteps, and the soft cries of a little boy who rules our hearts. Tonight, though, he's asleep, tucked in upstairs with the nanny we brought along, dreaming his wild little dreams while his mother and I finally have a moment that belongs to us. Harper sits across from me at the candlelit table in the courtyard, barefoot, legs curled up beneath her, wearing nothing but a soft white dress and that look in her eyes, the one that says she remembers exactly what we did the last time we were here, and exactly what's coming. She's swirling her wine, pretending to listen to the music playing low from the old speakers, but I know her. Her mind's already in the bedroom. And mine? It's still caught on the way, she said, husband, this morning. I rise, take her glass from her hand, and set it aside before pulling her up into me. She doesn't resist. She never does when I touch her like this, fingertips grazing the dip of her spine, lips grazing the curve of her jaw. Dance with me, I murmur.
There's no music.
She whispers back, smiling. There's you, I say. That's enough. We sway under a sky full of stars. Her chest pressed to mine, her breath against my throat, her fingers sliding beneath the collar of my shirt like she owns me. Because she does. She always did. Later in our room, I undress her slowly, not like it's routine, but like it's holy. I still get hungry for her in a way that defies time. Her curves, her warmth, the way her breath hitches when I run my lips along the inside of her thigh. She's soft where I'm hard, fire where I'm ice. And when we come together, skin to skin, heart to heart, it's never just about the sex. It's about the way she moans my name like it means something sacred now. It's about the way she begs without shame, takes without apology, gives without holding back. It's about the way her body wraps around mine, like we were never meant to be apart. And when she finally falls asleep, naked in my arms, her skin flushed, her heartbeat slowing beneath my palm, I don't move. I just watch her. The woman who showed me love without conditions, the mother of my son, the light in every dark part of me I used to keep buried. And I know with a certainty deeper than blood or bone, that no matter what storms come, no matter the years, the mistakes, the mess, we'll keep choosing each other, over and over again, because this is our forever, and it's just getting started.